Good morning, everybody. It's Misha. Today we're going to talk about vertigo, Menieres, and neuropathy. A little bit separate, but a lot joined in one way, insulin resistance. So let's dive in because I had so many questions about this yesterday. I'm going to just start out with how it links in. We'll round back to that a little bit instead of going over the insulin resistance first, and then we'll talk about insulin resistance afterward. So this thing that you guys keep hearing about, insulin resistance, that most of us have heard about. If you guys have heard about insulin resistance, put a 1 in the chat for me. Um, and then better yet, if you don't fully understand what insulin resistance is, put a 2 in the chat because we're going to go over some things that are not being talked about with insulin resistance today as well. But with vertigo and Menieres, what we're dealing with is an inner ear problem. So how does that relate to insulin resistance? Well, that relates because in studies, 76% of people with Meniere's disease also had high insulin levels or insulin resistance. So there's a big correlation between Meniere's and insulin resistance. 76% of people found with insulin resistance, that's pretty damning. Now, in people with tinnitus, it's 92% of people with tinnitus also have insulin resistance. So that I want to block that person. That there's a correlation. How is that happening? There's a number of parts in your inner ear that are affected. So there's a vestibular nerve and a vestibular area in your ear that's allowing you to have balance. With insulin resistance, it causes some dysfunction with that nerve. This is going to lead into some of the neuropathy we're going to talk about because insulin resistance is causing problems with your nerves. But there's also cochlear dysfunction that happens because when all of these areas start to become insulin resistant, they cannot function like they're supposed to. So these links are starting to be made. And most doctors, if you're suffering from vertigo, Menieres, tinnitus, how many of your doctors have ever talked to you about insulin resistance? Has anybody been talked to about, if you've been talked to about insulin resistance, put a 1 in. If your doctor's never addressed it, put a 2 in. But if you've been going and dealing with these bouts of dizziness and inner ear problems, and nobody's ever addressed insulin resistance, they're doing all these hypostatic tests and they're doing all of these other, maybe they're doing brain scans, maybe they're doing a number of other tests, but they've not addressed insulin resistance, right? That's what happened to me. I had vertigo that was so bad that it caused me to have a car accident simply because I coughed. So I coughed, it set off this problem in my head. I couldn't see, I didn't know where I was at. Boom, somebody had stopped in front of me and it totaled my car. There was other times where it was like it would head off and I would feel like I was going to fall down, throw up, everything all at once. And I don't have those bouts anymore. But my doctors and my primary care doctor is a doctor I love. She rooted out so many problems for so many people. I watched her do it and she's brilliant and amazing, but they haven't been taught about insulin resistance, right? Your doctors have not been taught about insulin resistance, and so they're not addressing it because they don't understand it. So when you find someone who can understand that, or when you can understand that insulin resistance is really at the root of most all of our diseases and disorders, hey, Dr. Jones, then you can start to understand where these things come from. So with Meniere's, vertigo, and neuropathy, it is all coming from, or very likely could that it's coming from this dysfunction of insulin in your body. And I'm going to go back. We're going to explain what insulin is. We're going to talk about what's causing the dysfunction and all of that. But I need you to understand that when the body is not getting energy to some of these areas, especially in the inner ear, now it's dysfunctioning and you're having problems. So vertigo and thyroid. So you guys, if you look at this list up here and you have more than one of those, it's most likely that you're having an insulin resistance problem. So we're going to talk about that in a second, but I do want you to understand that your vertigo and your Menieres, this one thing, if 76% of people with Menieres also have insulin resistance and your doctors never addressed it, that's a problem for our healthcare. If 92% of people have tinnitus, also have high insulin resistance, that's a problem with our healthcare, right? So because they're in a sick care model, not a health care model. They're not teaching you to have health. They're addressing sickness and trying to get those numbers down, but they're not teaching you how to be healthy. But at the same time, when I say that, how many of you guys have gone to the doctor and the doctor just simply said, if you lost some weight, all your problems would get better? If you just got control of your diet, you would start feeling better. If you just, lose 20 pounds and you'll do better. Okay. Well, that's great for vestibular migraines. So I'm not saying that insulin resistance is the only cause, right? All of these disorders, there's other causes for. So we want to be careful with that. But one of the biggest links to all of these, if it's lifestyle related, it's likely a metabolic dysfunction and an insulin resistance problem. So neuropathy is a very similar thing. So when we look at nerves in the brain, there's nerves throughout our body. And when those nerves are not getting the insulin that they need, which is delivering the energy that they need, they start to malfunction. So think about if you were not getting the proper food and energy that you needed, you wouldn't be able to go out and run a mile. You wouldn't be able to pick up things. Your body would start to dysfunction because you're just not getting the energy you need. If your car ran out of gas and you didn't put the proper fuel back in it, it wouldn't have energy to go. That's what's happening to every cell, an area in our body with insulin resistance, or nearly every cell. So with insulin resistance, the nerves aren't getting the energy they need. They're starting to malfunction. They're either not giving the proper signals, the signals are going haywire, and now you're starting to have this neuropathy because you're getting signaling that's outside of the pathway or intermittent, and it's perceived as this tingling and numbing and pain in your body, right? You walk into walls. I had that problem when I was younger, and when I was 15 years old and started having these issues, because I was going through so much emotional stress, nobody ever talked about insulin resistance and ED. Yes. So you guys, I'm so happy that you guys are recognizing this. So we're going to talk about the main cause of insulin resistance. We're going to talk about some things people are getting wrong with it. But I do want you to understand, before I get into all of that, before I get into the actions of insulin resistance, that there are other things that can start this whole thing off. Now, the one main cause is the thing that we can control and start to get it under back in order, right? So trauma can cause insulin resistance through inflammation in the body and a trauma response, rising cortisol, surgeries, injuries, emotional problems. If you've ever lived with someone who's a narcissist and you're constantly inundated with abuse, those things can set you up to be insulin resistant as well. Vomiting and passing out, Rhonda, I had that too. Like, it was bad. My kids were scared. There was so much going wrong. They're like, what happened to my mama? She's falling apart. All right, so we're going to dive into insulin resistance and we'll start figuring out, and I can go back and answer some of these questions, but I did want to stop because today we were supposed to be talking about vertigo, Menieres, and neuropathy. I wanted to explain some of that. So I do have some notes here because I am not an inner ear expert, but there's a study, and I'm going to be posting a video with these studies noted in there so you guys can go look if you care. But the diabetes and insulin resistance, first of all, the vestibular dysfunction. Remember, there's an area in your ear called the vestibular area, but it's all centered around a vestibular nerve. That nerve misfiring is causing a dysfunction in your balance and your hearing. So losing your hearing, we're going to lose a little bit of function in hearing as we age, but as we age, the biggest problem with hearing seems to be linked to insulin resistance. So you don't have to have as bad a hearing as you think if you get the insulin resistance under control, especially those low tones that you have problems with when you're getting older, that's linked to insulin resistance. So another area, the otolith. So otolith dysfunction, there's these little crystals that get built up in your ear and they help you with, it's like, it's not calcium, but it's little built up areas of components in the ear. I'll name that in the video. But the dysfunction in those and those acting properly affects your balance. So insulin resistance is helping with that. Um, I want to talk about Monjaro. Okay. I am not a proponent of these medications. I'm just not. Like I get that some people go there, but you guys, why if you understand that Monjaro is a drug, and if you understand that insulin resistance, which I'm about to get to, is a dietary disorder, meaning that our food is imperfect, we're missing components, we're having too much of some components, is Monjaro fixing the problem with your diet? It's not fixing the problem. Monjaro, um, can it help insulin resistance? In the short term, you may see um, some benefit with it, but you're putting your pancreas, your gallbladder, your thyroid at risk. And most doctors are not paying attention enough to those things. And so I get reports from people all the time who said, they've gotten gastroparesis, they've lost thyroid function, they've lost pancreatic function, they've had gallbladder issues after Monjaro. So in order to address insulin resistance, and yes, it can be reversed, you've got to address the dietary disruption that we have. So, what does all that look like? And you guys, there are some questions that are not showing up, but I just had that rocks in your ears came loose. So, I don't know enough about that around Sville. Um, And I will look into that because now you got me curious about the crystals. I have not had enough time to study what's going on with the crystals in the ear. But this dysfunction of those crystals, how they're built, how they're maintained in the ear, is very much linked to insulin resistance. So let me do a little more research on that. Where's my notebook? And I'll try to do something on that. And by the way, over 40 years ago, a prominent doctor said this. He said the most common and most overlooked cause of vertigo is a disorder of glucose metabolism, insulin resistance. 40 years ago, he talked about this and people didn't listen. Okay. 40 years ago, they started recognizing that all of this balanced vertigo, Menieres, and even neuropathy was linked to insulin resistance. So why have you just been given more tests that are causing you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, and medications that aren't working when really what we need to do is address the insulin? So let's get down to the insulin. I talked about some things like traumas and whatnot that can cause insulin resistance. There are a number of other things in your body, your thyroid hormones being off, your cortisol being off. So you guys, sleep, rest, and a peaceful time in your life and not being stressed all the time is going to help. But the number one cause is high glucose levels. Now, we get that confused, right? And I'm going to talk about the difference between high glucose levels and high insulin levels and how this is not being diagnosed in just a minute. But what we need to understand with our food is that it doesn't have a number of the components that we need in order to regulate the glucose that we're eating. So if you're eating boxed and labeled foods, you're probably getting a higher delivery, quicker delivery of glucose into the system than needs to be. Um, and then we're eating those foods every 2 hours. Every day I say this, and every day I hope that somebody listens. Many of you do. But when we're eating that often, what we're really doing is spiking our insulin consistently. It's not just the glucose that's getting spiked. So insulin is a hormone. It's a hormone that's there to carry that energy. It has a number of other jobs, but the main job we're going to talk about is that it carries that energy in the form of glucose to your cells. And I found some really great graphics, and I'll be doing some videos using those graphics. So follow me and we'll start showing you how this all works a little bit more in depth. But insulin goes up to carry the glucose that we're eating because it's coming in too quickly. We get too much glucose or not too much insulin too often. That high level of insulin consistently causes insulin resistance as a result of hyperinsulinemia. So it's really an insulin dysregulation problem that's happening as a result of the glucose that we're eating. So Monjaro Trizepatide, all of those things are not fixing that. They may be addressing your hunger, they may be addressing a few other things, but they're not fixing the food that you eat. So if you go on Mounjaro and those other drugs and you're not addressing the diet that got you there in the first place, what's going to happen when you go off of that? You're going to go right back to the same problems you had before because that drug didn't magically fix this dietary disorder or the modern food environment that we're in that's going to put you right back there. So until you understand what got you there in the first place, all those drugs are really not going to help you in the long term. Okay. Yeah, you guys, so there are a few things. I mean, I employ all the stuff I can to help my body right now. And look, I am not perfect either. I'm a normal woman with a lot of stresses in my life. There's things going on that, we all have things going on that nobody knows about, right? So there are moments where life seems blissful and there are moments when it's extremely stressful. There are days when I have a problem going to sleep because of my ADD and going over all the stuff in my brain, and my autism. There's days I sleep really deeply, but one of those things, you guys, when we talk about stress, you've got to find ways to start dealing with the stress. I'll give you some clues on that. That has nothing to do with the protocol that I'm going to talk about. But I have a little playlist that I made up of happy songs. And it starts off with me talking about how great my life is and the goals I want to have. And it really shifts my mind. I listen to that first thing in the morning as I'm getting ready for all of this. Having that go on as you're getting ready in the morning, instead of focusing on all the stuff that's negative in your life, and putting you in this positive aspect of, I look around and I'm like, I am so blessed by where my life is right now. Is it perfect? No, but am I blessed to have the life I have right now? Absolutely. So focusing on that instead of focusing on, oh, somebody said something about me yesterday and it really hurt me. My kids did something and I don't understand why they feel that way. Or some other weird thing that happened, and like diving into all that negativity is going to cause you more stress. Find a way to shift out of that. I love meditation. That's going to help your stress. Getting sleep and rest. Stop staying up. I'm talking to myself. Stop staying up till midnight. Get to bed on time, get good sleep, and you'll start to feel better there. Part of good sleep, when we're going to go backwards, part of good sleep is getting your body moving. If you're sitting all the time, you're not going to get good sleep at night. You need to expend some energy. You need to get your body moving. Now, when you go to bed, your body's going to be like, I had a great day. I used up this energy. We did some good work. I need rest. And you're going to sleep better. If you're not moving, if you're not exercising, you're going to have more problems with sleep. So those things have nothing to do with the protocol. Now, the protocol employs all of that, right? But it also employs two things that I do every day: a tea in the morning, which you see me drinking again, and a pre-meal drink that I have before I eat. Why? Because they're filling the gaps that are in my nutritional system. So now the tea, Mounjaro, is this is not, let's stop that right now. I misspoke. So the tea is somewhat like Mounjaro in the fact that while it's giving me nutrients, it's giving my brain satiety, it's giving my gut satiety cues. Great video by Dr. Huberman in the tab called The Tea. Now, the tea is shutting down my hunger. It's giving me mental clarity and energy. It's delivering a lot of nutrients to my brain and body, and it doesn't break a fast. We're going to talk about why fasting is important in a minute too. So this does all of that. Then before I do eat, one of the big things, it's not an essential nutrient, but I like to think of it as a super nutrient, is fiber. Fibers have been stripped out of our foods. And now that's why we're having a big part of why we're having this glucose dysregulation. So I've had pescatarians and vegetarians all complain of the same thing because the foods and the vegetables that we're getting now are not what they call heirloom. They're not like they used to be. Fibers have been genetically modified out of them to make them less dense, to make them less satiating, to make them less bitter. And so now you're getting high loads of glucose or fructose, and it's getting to your bloodstream really quickly because the fiber is not there to slow it down. So one of the biggest things I do for my health, and when I lost my 50 pounds and when I got my A1C and all of that under control, the only thing that I did for those first 6 to 9 months was this system: a tea in the morning and a pre-meal drink before I ate anything, some intermittent fasting, and understanding no snacking, and then some things like that fiber first, prioritize protein, don't fear fats, and limit those carbs. Okay. Those were four of the key things with my diet that I paid attention to. And I'm working on something, and you guys, I get it. It's so confusing out there, right? So I have clients who are saying, well, I don't understand the fat to protein ratio, and I'm really doing my best to find some answers. But when I dive in to do the research, there's a lot of conflicting information. And I don't want to just put out a video that says, A, B, C, D, and not have some, because I think it's right. I want to have some basis behind that. But the truth is, there are those three nutrients that we need first. The two macronutrients we need to focus on are protein and fats, okay, and limiting our carbs. This is why so many people are finding such great results with the carnivore diet, because they've limited some of the other things or got them out of their diet. But not everybody can do carnivore, right? Not everybody's willing to do that or can bear that with their finances, whatever. So the system I do: tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I eat anything, reduced my A1C from 7.4 to 5.3, reversed my blood pressure, my tinnitus, my vertigo, all of those things. All I did was address the insulin resistance by utilizing this protocol that helped get my blood glucose and my insulin levels under control. So let's go back to some questions. And by the way, you can get it in my link up here. Guys, I realized, yes, the other day people were saying your link's not working, your link's not working. And so I was thinking it was the Linktree link that's not working. So many people are discovering this and ordering now that we're having problems on the company side where their website's not able to keep up. So sometimes when you click on my link, it looks like a white page sitting there. Just give it some time. It will load up. It's not dysfunctioning. The link works fine. It just takes a moment of time for it to load, and they're working on it. So I wasn't understanding what link, because I have so many links, right? My link's not working. That's what's happening. The company link, where you order the product, is lagging. It's working, but it's lagging. So your ENT specialist said to watch sodium, did not mention insulin resistance for Menieres. So let's talk about that. So they say with heart problems, with edema, with Menieres, they're saying watch your sodium, right? Get rid of that salt out of your system. How many of you guys have heard that salt is this really bad thing for you? Stop salting your food. Get rid of the salt. Put a 1 in if you've been told that salt is really a bad thing for heart, for Menieres, for neuropathy, for maybe even gout. Salt is bad for you. If you've been told that, put a 1 in. Good morning, Petty Me. Right? White, all those ones. Well, the type of salt does matter too, and the diets conflict. Heart disease and diabetes, the diets do not conflict if you look at it from the basis of insulin resistance. Most diabetic nutritionists have been taught by an industry that the books and everything for that have been taught by an industry that's led by big food and big pharma. So why would they tell you to eat less, to control your glucose, because you're going to buy less food and you're not going to buy their medications? So more and more diabetes educators are starting to understand this thing that I'm talking about, and they're shifting gears. But unfortunately, it's a road ahead of us, right? The heart issues and diabetes diets do not have to conflict at all when you come from the link of insulin resistance. So, okay, so all of these ones, let's deal with the salt. It's not so much the salt as it is the sugar. Cocoa, yeah, that vertigo. So listen up, because if they haven't found, like I had head injury as well, so the doctors were like, oh my gosh, what's going on? But if they're not able to figure it out, I'm going to invite you to understand that insulin resistance, you may not have been here earlier, 76% of Meniere's disease is people with Menieres that were studied have also got high levels of insulin or insulin resistance. 92% of people with tinnitus had high insulin levels or insulin resistance. So if your doctor's not able to help you, the protocol that I'm using is allowing you to get that insulin resistance under control. Do it for 90 days. And if it's not helping, you get your money back. And if it is helping, now you know, right? So salt and sugar. So sugar is causing this high level of insulin resistance, or too much sugar too often all the time. It's causing this rise of insulin. Um, Remind me to come back about how the body produces insulin in a bit, but I want to get through this. So when we have those high levels of insulin all the time, the body just starts to shut down. It doesn't want to hear from it anymore. It's like you're driving me crazy. You're like you're like an Energizer bunny on crack, and you're making me nuts. I don't want to hear from you. I'm going to close up, and I'm not going to listen to you anymore, insulin, because you're bugging me to death. Now, when we have insulin resistance like that, too much insulin in the system, causing the cells to be like, no more, and they're now resistant. Now we have dysfunction going on in the body. One of those places that we have dysfunction is in the kidneys. Now, there's a cue that the kidneys need to help balance your salt levels in your system. And with this inundation of insulin resistance from too much sugar, those kidneys are holding on to more salt and not passing enough salt out of your system. Now you're having water retention problems. You're having blood pressure problems. You're having lymphatic problems. You're having we talked about with both men and women. Men, it may be erectile dysfunction. Women, you may have some vaginal dryness because of this restricted blood flow and this inflammation throughout your body now because of salt being retained. But how would it be if you could salt your food normally with, yes, Celtic salt, or I use Himalayan salt, um, and get the sugar under control? Get the sugar under control, and the salt doesn't become an issue. The salt regulation is coming from a sugar dysregulation. Crazy, right? But how many of you guys have been told that ever? So I want to address this one. I just saw something. Your daughter is on a low sodium diet because of kidney disease. So you're already on a low sodium diet. So Ruby, I'm going to stop, and I know there's a bunch more questions down below, and I'm going to get to those, but this one hit my heart. Like anytime you guys talk about kids, whew, I got chills. Um, Man, that just when we see our kids struggle, like, why? Why are we allowing this food industry and this big pharma industry to destroy not only our lives? Like most of us, if you're a parent, like it can affect us. I don't know how anybody else's mind works, but like I can take a lot of abuse and dysfunction and just deal with it and shut up and move on. But you do the same thing to my kids, now it's over. So we got to understand that with the kids, and we're seeing more and more non-alcoholic fatty liver in kids, kidney disease in kids, prediabetes and diabetes in kids. And if we can understand that all of this is linked to a glucose dysregulation problem causing an insulin dysregulation problem, and start addressing it from that side, your daughter may be able to help her kidney disease. I have a gentleman who had type 3 or stage 3 kidney disease who was getting ready to go through the process to have the surgeries and go on dialysis. He now has normal kidney dysfunction, and all he did was address his insulin resistance using the same protocol that I use. Ruby, I would love to chat with you and see how this could help your daughter. I mean, this is not a sales pitch. I really give a damn about kids. And if we can understand what's happening and start making some adjustments besides just a low sodium diet, which I'm not telling you to go off of, but I'm saying if we want to understand why the low sodium came, we need to understand the sugar dysregulation that likely caused that. And if you want to know more, let's talk, because I'd love to try and help out. In the meantime, the protocol that I talk about can be found up in my link up at top on YouTube and Facebook. I'll drop it in the chat. Okay. So you guys, the protocol. Let's talk about the protocol again. Um, right? So Ruby says her stress is big because of this kidney disease with her daughter, and my stress would be huge because of that too. I get it. Um, we are Mrs. Spear says, thank you for your knowledge on this. We're so lost with illness. And it doesn't, we don't have to be, you guys. I didn't know, listen, I didn't know any of this 2.5 years ago when I started this protocol. And yes, I'm going to go over the protocol right now. Um, Nephrotic syndrome, I haven't done enough research on that. Let me look at that one because we're talking about kidneys. Let's look at nephrotic syndrome. Um, and I will find what I can. Now, I'm always, before I get into the protocol, I want to make this quick statement. I'm always shocked when somebody throws something out like that, and I'm like, okay, there's going to be something that's really not linked to insulin resistance because I don't want people to think I'm crazy. But almost always, I find a link to insulin resistance, either in exacerbating it or maybe being the cause. So I'm not saying insulin resistance is the cause of all of these things. There are other things going on in our body, but it certainly can make problems worse if you have some of these conditions. Okay. So the protocol I do is really about plugging in the gaps that are in our nutritional system now. We're having these gaps because our food environment is imperfect. We've stripped fibers out of our food, we've stripped enzymes and nutrients out of our food. We're not rotating crops. We're eating boxed, bagged foods that are changed and have chemicals and all this stuff added to it, and we're not getting the nutrients that we need in. So the protocol is really putting back a lot of the nutrients that we need for our metabolism because it's metabolically focused for our metabolism to function. Now our metabolism is functioning, now everything else can function better. So it looks like this. A tea that I drink in the morning, and I'm going to go over both of these in depth in a second. A tea that I drink in the morning, I have it every morning hot, and it doesn't break a fast. I'm in a fasted state now. Again, every morning I'm in a fasted state about 15 hours when I hop on. Then before I eat, if we understand that sugar is going into our system too quickly because there's nothing slowing it down, it's breaking down too finely, it's going into our intestines and absorbing into our bloodstream too quickly. And how do we slow that down? We slow it down by adding in a variety, not just psyllium husk, not just that benefiber metamucil stuff, but a variety of fibers that can have some actions I'm going to talk about to slow down the delivery of that sugar into your bloodstream. Now your blood sugars never go as high, which means your insulin doesn't have to go as high. Now we're starting to regulate the problem. Now we also do some intermittent fasting and we don't snack between meals. Now we're keeping our blood glucose level and we're keeping our insulin levels level. But the basis of all of that, yes, there are some steps that I take, but the basis for me that really changed everything was this tea in the morning and the pre-meal drink that I have 10 minutes before I eat. And that gives me back a lot of the nutrients that have been stripped, including 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers. So that's the protocol. A tea in the morning, a pre-meal drink before I eat anything. You get it in my profile link. And now we're going to go over what the tea and the fiber do. Okay. So the tea, it is yerba mate. No, I heard a doctor say yerba mate, and forever now I have problems saying it right. Yerba mate tea from Argentina, a very specific tea. Why this one instead of a bagged tea that you get at the grocery store of yerba mate, or any loose leaf tea that you get that's yerba mate? Because of these reasons. This has gone through a 5-step process. Not only is it hand harvested, so it's only the leaves that are at the right time and efficacy for us to get the nutrients we need out of it. Not too immature and not overripe, but at the right time. It's ethically, sustainably harvested, which not all teas are. Let's be real. And then we take it through a fire roasting process to extract these components, these nutrients that we need out of the tea. And the tea is called the food of the gods by the Argentinians because it provides so much nutrient for them that they thrive on the tea when they have no other food available. So the tea is giving me all of that, but it's giving me anti-cancer properties. It's giving me antioxidant properties. It's giving me anti-inflammatory properties. It's increasing my energy by helping me burn fat for fuel. It's getting nutrients to the brain through chlorogenic acids. It has 3 things called adaptogens that I go over in some other videos under the tea tab. But those adaptogens modulate or mediate the effects of the caffeine that are naturally occurring in this tea. So all of that in this tea. Now we've done all of that and we've hyper concentrated it. So it's about 375 times higher in chlorogenic acids, which is a component that can cross the blood-brain barrier, get nutrients to the brain, helping with the neurology, neurological issues and neuropathy. Man, there was so many words like crunching through my brain at that moment in time. So it's helping with all of that. Okay, but it's not breaking a fast. It's not spiking my insulin, and it's also shutting down my hunger. Now this, which is 7 different soluble and insoluble fibers, phytosterols, and vitamins and minerals specifically designed for our metabolism. What this does is, now when I'm ready to eat, I will drink this 10 minutes before. And why 10 minutes before? Those soluble and insoluble vitamins or fibers in there create a matrix that creates a gelatinous mass in our gut. When it hits the enzymes in our gut and the acids in our gut, it starts to expand. Now you're starting to feel full before you even eat. So it always amuses me when people are like, but I'm getting so full when I drink the tea or the this before I eat that, I just don't want to eat as much. Well, is that a problem? Because that's a good thing. We're overeating. So that's a good thing that your gut's feeling a little bit full before you eat, right? Now it also is creating this mass that's just thick and kind of sticky. And so when you're eating these foods and the glucose and the fats are going in there, it's encapsulating it. And I call it like a time release. So instead of that glucose and those fats going directly into your intestines and causing IBS and all of these blood glucose dysregulation issues, it's slowing it down. So now the insulin never has to go as high. Your blood glucose starts to regulate. It's been proven with one pack of this particular pre-meal drink to reduce a blood glucose spike when tested with white bread, one of the highest glycemic foods there is, to reduce it by 20% and an insulin spike by 13. Somebody texted me yesterday and said, I'm going to my sister's for her birthday. We're going to be having cake. We're going to be having spaghetti, lots of carbs. What do I do? Well, then she's going to have 2 of these. 2 of these before the meal are going to reduce that blood glucose spike by 28% and her blood insulin spike by 27%. Does it mean she can't go enjoy her birthday with her sister? No, it means she can. She's not going to do it all the time, but that's the protocol. That's all it is. It's as simple as that. And it changed all of this up above for me and for many of the people that I work with. So that's the protocol. Let's go on down here. Tremor Studios. Here in Portugal, we eat vegetable soup before the rest of the meal. So Tremor, that's great. But here in the US, we would have to eat a lot of vegetable soup and we would never get to the protein that's so important for us because our foods have been so stripped of fibers. I know it's not that way everywhere in the world, but our standard American diet is bleaching out into the rest of the world, and the rest of y'all are starting to see these effects too. So especially like in Europe and the UAE, I have customers there who are suffering from the same things because their food is imperfect as well. Portion is, so as I'm doing this research on how much fat to protein and the calories that we need, and I primarily deal with older women, but the caloric load, and there's some really complicated calculations as to figure out how much calories you want. If you guys want me to do a video on that calculation and you think you can work through it, I'm more than happy to share that calculation with you in the how to tell part. But just let me know if you want that. You can put a 1 in and then I will do that. But it's a pretty complicated calculation. So to figure out what your caloric load should actually be. How do you get this tea and the other drink? So to get the protocol, you're just going to go to my profile link up above and you're going to tap on that. When the white box below comes up, tap on it again. And I will flip this around and show you what that's going to look like for you. So, let me get the link over here on YouTube and Facebook while I'm doing this. All right, there's the link for you guys. Now, okay, so I will do a video on the calculation. So I have to make myself notes, you guys. Yerba mate versus matcha. Both of them are great, but matcha does not have the chlorogenic acids, the mate saponins, which are saponins that are creating a lot of good in the body. Let's take a look at the yerba mate tea. Um, I do drink some matcha as well, though, Mrs. Spears. The basis, if I drink one thing in the day, it's going to be the yerba mate because it gives me the satiety factors and it gives me all those antioxidant, anti-cancer activities. Yerba mate can do some of the same, but it's a different action as well. I'm not yerba mate, matcha. So in reality, thank you for asking, Mrs. Spears, because in this tea that I have, when I'm done with this tea that's just the Unamate, this is our Unamate, and we also have a matcha, a ceremonial grade chai oka tea. That's one of these and one of the matcha in this drink. So I mix them. It's called the Unamatcha Bomb. So I do get matcha tea in almost every day as well. But the Unamate is what, or the mate tea is what the basis of this whole metabolic is. You'll get some results from doing matcha with it, but our matcha is very similar to this tea. So it's highly concentrated and cleaned, so that you're not having those toxic loads from all the pesticides and stuff. This has helped you lose. Okay, let's go by Malin. Makes sense. This has helped me lose weight and also helped me reduce my physical symptoms from chronic illnesses. Chloe, thank you. The system is amazing. So let's talk about how affordable it is. It's $5 a day. Okay, it's $5 a day. Most people are drinking multiple sodas. You know, if you go out to get a soda now, it's like $2 to $3 just for a soda. That's really not helping your health, right? Or you go to Starbucks or Dutch Bros or whatever coffee places near you, and you're spending probably $7 a day on those coffees. And I know a lot of people that were addicted to those coffees for the taste and the energy and all that. When you do this, it's $5 a day, which is on subscription. It's about $154 a month. But let's talk about that because it just takes a mindset shift. Because when I started, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to afford this. How can I do $154 a month for that when I'm struggling to pay my rent, when I'm struggling to buy food, when I'm struggling to pay my electric bills, and I'm just falling further behind? But I was so committed to my health. I'm like, I got to do it. And then I realized my food bill went down. I'm not buying all the snacks and all the stuff, and I'm not buying all the sodas and all the stuff that was destroying my health. But instead, I was buying this and utilizing it. And even though I'm focused on nutrients in my diet, I'm just not spending as much on those things. Plus, for me, what happened was I got off of 13 medications, $10 a copay for those medications. That's already $130 a month. So I swapped this for 13 different medications I was taking. I'm not going to the doctor's office twice a month. I was literally at the doctor's office every 2 weeks because of all of that stuff. So the time it cost me, the gas it cost me, plus the copay on those doctor's visits, that's a lot of money. I save way much more than I do this. So let's take a look at the link. I have it queued up over on Facebook and YouTube. So let's look. I gotta flip things around, you guys. Okay, so when you go to my profile, you're just going to tap on my picture up above this live, and you're going to get to my profile. Okay, you're going to see my picture here with the red glasses. You're going to see these red lights. Click on this link, and that's going to take you to this page where all of my links are. The system is linked here. Okay. The tea that I love so much, if you're like me and I'm having 2 a day and you feel like, okay, I'm good with the system, I'm doing this correctly, but I want more tea, they've done a booster pack to save you money on that. So some people, we'll talk about that later, but those are both there. Want more information on all of this that you can just sit down and read? That's right here. The free ebook for the 6 simple steps that I employ along with the protocol. You get that here, and you're not going to get bugged and you're not going to be sold. This is a free ebook for you guys. And then if you just need to talk to me, here's my WhatsApp. So all of that's there. I hope that helps you. Now, when you get here, you're going to click on the order the system I use and see how the page just went white. It sometimes takes a minute. You want to make sure that it says Misha Fayant at the top, so that you know you're going to get linked to me. I have people who order and they're like, but I never heard from you. Well, you didn't use my link to order, so how would I know and how can I contact you and help you when you didn't use my link? Okay, Then you're just going to click on the buy now, and then that's going to take you to the order page. I do want to go over this really quickly without, this is what it's going to look like because people have questions. $5 a day means 30 of the tea, 60 of the balance. So a tea in the morning, a balance before each meal. That's the whole system. You're getting 90 packets for that. You can choose on your tea flavors. I'm having it lemon ginger, a little bit spicy this morning, a little less sweet. That's how I like it hot. Lemon is how I like it cold. You can choose. I would start with the lemon. If you don't like it so sweet, get the lemon ginger. Black just means it looks, feels, and tastes more like coffee. And then the pre-meal drink only comes in the orange flavor, so that's why you're not getting an option for that right now. I do want to say this too. If you go to Amazon, eBay, Walmart, you're not getting any of the guarantees. Do the monthly subscription. That's going to save you $5 off. You're going to get free shipping. You get a free hand mixer, and you can cancel it at any time. And guess what? You need to cancel your subscription for whatever reason. You just get a hold of me, and I help you through that. Okay? All right, so that's where you're going to get it. I hope that answers that. Yeah, they're having problems. It's lagging a little bit. So you just hang out. It will populate, and just save that link. If you need the link to access later, let me know. Our IT department is really working on getting that all fixed up, and they're very aware of the problem. We're just so inundated right now because people are learning about this, including I'm seeing more and more doctors. I always talk about Dr. Ahmed in Wisconsin, who is a cardiologist who recommends it to all of his patients. But now there's more and more. I was listening to a doctor in the UAE, which I am not Arabic speaking, so I couldn't understand anything he was saying. But more and more doctors are starting to go, hey, why am I giving people medications that's hurting them more when I should be doing something to help them? Okay, the booster pack. So Unimate, what we found is that some people are doing well with the system, but maybe they're only doing OMAD, right? So they're only using one balance a day, which whether you're doing OMAD or eating 2 meals a day, I like to recommend doing both of the fiber because besides the blood glucose regulation, you're getting in the fiber you need to help with your gut microbiome, and that's a big piece that a lot of us are missing. But if you're doing OMAD and you're only taking one balance but you're drinking 2 Unimate, so some of my people will order the Feel Great system 1 month, and then they'll order the booster pack the next month. Now they have their 2 tea a day, and their balance is catching them through the next month. The booster pack, let's look at it. The booster pack, let me get back to my links here. Okay, let's just take a look at the booster pack real quick because I'm visual, you guys. Sorry, but I don't do well if I don't have visuals in front of me. So the Unimate 2-pack or booster pack is here. When you do that, you're still getting the tea, but now you're getting 2 packs of the tea. So you can get it in both lemon, you can get it in mixes, lemon and black, you can get it lemon and lemon ginger, you can get both of them lemon ginger, you can get lemon ginger and black. If you like to mix the teas up like I do, you can do that and have both flavors available. So maybe get your Feel Great system in one flavor and then get the booster pack in another flavor. Now you have some variety. And then I have some people who just want to do the tea. Look, for metabolic reasons, it doesn't work as well with just the tea. But if you just want the satiety and that boost and not have energy drinks that are damaging your heart, the tea's great. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to this graphic and then ask questions before I wrap up this morning. Does anybody have more questions about this stuff? And we were going to talk about, we're going to talk about, wow, I have Wednesday written down. Today is Wednesday. Oh my God. I lose time. I have so much fun in life. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to be talking about kidneys. Okay. And I'm going to be doing some research on lipedema and psoriasis, and we'll talk about those on Friday. But tomorrow we're going to talk about kidneys and whatever else we can. I want to round back to this. If you're having problems with Meniere's disease, tinnitus, neuropathy, um, again, I'm going to say these numbers again because to me it's so impactful. Meniere's disease, 72% of people studied with Meniere's disease also had insulin resistance. 92% of people with tinnitus also had insulin resistance. That's a pretty good indicator that there's a problem. If you told me 15%, okay, there's some co-concurrence, right? But 76 and 92%, that's a pretty big indication that insulin resistance is causing a problem. And it's causing a problem because nerves are not functioning properly. You're having this vestibular nerve dysfunction. You're having problems with the crystals in your ears because of insulin resistance. And the neuropathy is just that same nerve dysfunction that's happening not only in the brain, but throughout the body. So I'm putting out a video today on this topic, and I will cite some of those papers if anybody's like me and wants to read them. And otherwise, tomorrow we are going to talk about kidneys. So we're going to get more into how the kidneys are not able to release salts and talk about why you're being told to do a salt restricted diet. And maybe I'll share some of the stories of the people who've had great results with their kidneys and getting that reversed with these two real food-based products and addressing your insulin resistance. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to be super honest with you guys. I am not as successful as other people because I really do care about getting you guys the knowledge, and I'm not as pushy about the product. Would I do more better? Would I do better financially if I push the product more? Yeah, but in my heart, it just wouldn't feel right. And I got to do what feels right for my heart. So I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, Mama Newman. And I do want to talk about this real quick before I get off too. If you're having financial concerns and you're like, I just don't know that I can do that, I want to give you a couple of hints. If you have a health savings account, a number of people, many people have been able to use their health savings account to purchase the system. Other people, although it's not in the meta, in in your insurance company's formulary. If your doctor prescribes the Feel Great system because it is in the prescriber's digital reference, and you take the receipt from your purchase and that prescription and send it to your insurance, many insurances have been reimbursing. Am I promising you that it's going to happen? No, but if that could help you get on the system and make it more affordable, that would be great. Yeah, Janice, it is always kind of overload. So I do this every morning. So a lot of people will sit and listen to me for months at a time. And then when it starts to all kind of come together, because it's a lot of information in 1 hour, and I can't, like, there are so many things to talk about. I'll be doing some videos on insulin resistance, how you get it, how to tell, and how to overcome it. So those are all going to be in tabs on this. So you can sit down and listen to it in like 1.5 minute chunks as you can and absorb it. That might be helpful to you. So just follow along. And if you guys don't know, I don't know that I can show it here, but if you go to my profile, there's little tabs across the top, and that there are things like how to tell. Those are some of these calculations that I'm giving. Like I just did one on the waist to hip ratio. I did one on a HOMA IR and blood glucose one. So there's a number of ways with some of the information you already have that you can do calculations to figure out if this is you along with symptoms. Rosie, thank you so much. You guys, when I get off of these lives in the morning, it's the most blissful time I have all day outside of spending time with my grandson. You guys fill my whole soul so much, so much. Yeah. So Janice, just keep following along. And if you guys want to know more about the PDR, I do have some notes. I'm going to be doing that. How to know how many calories you should be getting in. I'll be doing some more nutritional videos. But if you have suggestions of things that you want me to address, please let me know. But I am going to stop and say, because I do, this is how I make money, is by the protocol that saved my life. And it's not just about making money for me. It honestly is like when I get phone calls, and I've got to start sharing some of those stories of the texts and phone calls I get of people who are just like so blown away that their whole life is changing just like mine did. And some of it in small ways, and it builds. But the system, you can get it in my profile link. So go do that. When you buy it from me, you get me as a coach, you get the 90-day money back guarantee, you get the quality guarantee, and you get the low price guarantee. You'll get the same price as I pay for it, and all of that. Now, I'm also building a team of people who are changing their financial health and wealth. If you are interested in that part, please reach out to me as well. There is a tab on mine about how I make money, and you can too. But the tea helps. So thanks for the info. This program is great. Used to have issues with intermediate fasting, but the tea helps. You look, my son talked to me about doing intermittent fasting, and I was like, because I'm kind of sciencey, right? Like up here, it made sense. I'm like, yeah, son, sounds really great. I think it would be a good thing. And then I just couldn't do it. I was having sugar cravings. I was just so hungry and overwhelmed with everything else in life. I just couldn't do it. But the tea makes it super simple. If I know that I get to wake up, I get to put something in my face that's not spiking my insulin, that's helping me burn fat for fuel, giving me mental clarity and energy. We can talk about mental stuff tomorrow too, memory function, or not tomorrow, but next week. But all of that, and I drink this instead of waking up to a bagel and cream cheese, which I never really ate anyway. But you guys, that bagel and cream cheese is spiking your insulin and shutting down your brain again, where this is helping you have more function. Haven't talked about it for a while, but if you're doing tests, if you're in meetings, if you have big presentations, this tea is going to help you be on point. So it's not just about metabolism, it's about brain function. The tea was actually developed as a brain function tool, but it just works so well with metabolism because of its satiety properties and whatnot. This fiber helps you get full quicker. Um, And it's easy to mix. Yeah, you know what? I didn't talk about that today, you guys. So this is what my day looks like. No matter where I go. And by the way, I'm going to be going up to Toronto in about a week. So when I'm gone for 7 days, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? Do I want to worry about, can I go find a bushel of broccoli to eat every day? Do I want to worry about carrying a canister? I'm not flying this time. I'm going to drive. But how am I going to manage all of this when I'm in and out of meetings all day and all of that? I'm taking these 3 things with me. This is what my day is going to look like. I mix this, but you know I like to have 2, so I'll be having 2 of these. So my day is actually going to look like this, okay? But I'll be mixing this in some water, and I'll be taking this into those meetings with me. It's going to help me get through the day and have the energy to focus on what I'm doing all day. It's just a tube that I tear open and pour in water. I'm not steeping anything. I'm not worrying about finding a place to do all of that. If I'll be driving for 8 hours. So at a gas station, I can grab a bottle of water. I'll probably be bringing a gallon of distilled water, but I can just still mix this up, drink it, help me stay focused while I'm driving. Before I eat, super simple. Whether I'm in a restaurant, I'm not pulling a canister of stuff out of my purse, pulling a packet out of my purse, pouring this in my cup of water, stirring it up, and that's it. It makes it really easy to maintain this lifestyle. So thank you for that comment. And I'm going to follow you. I want to get your story, N and Z, um, to share. I don't share enough people's stories, and that's part of the problem. But I should. The brain fog. It has this. The tea. I'm not. I think the tea has a little bit of vitamin K, but the one of the other main things that I add to my regimen, I did not start there, but I do it now, and I do it every night. It helps with my sleep so much. We have another product called Bone Fortify. Bone Fortify is calcium, magnesium, D3, and K2 in balanced amounts that makes it as metabolically available as possible. and it has a berry flavor. I just put a scoop of that in some water, drink it right before I go to bed. I sleep well, and it's giving me those nutrients that I need, K3 and D2. So that's how I'm making sure I get those in. Okay. The brain fog, Janice. Brain fog, I'm going to go over this really quick. And so I don't want to get anybody on overload, but in a very, very, very simplistic term, let's look at brain fog. Your brain becomes insulin resistant at the same time as the rest of your body. Okay. There's a couple of things that become insulin resistant really quickly, but the brain is one. Your brain needs glucose to function. It needs it to do all the jobs it's doing. When it becomes insulin resistant, now that receptor that's allowing glucose in is shutting down. So your brain can't function as properly as it should. You're ending up with brain fog, headaches, anxiety, depression. Okay. When you get those nutrients to your brain, then that brain starts to go, oh, I can function again. I'm not starving. Plus, it's not only just the brain fog, but now when we're having this glucose dysregulation in the brain is screaming to the body, I need energy. So it's telling you you're hungry because it needs fuel or glucose. But you have this dysregulation problem that the more you eat, the more the glucose dysregulation is going on. I won't have time to do it this morning. I'm working on a lot of videos, but I want everybody to understand there's a difference between glucose dysregulation and insulin dysregulation. We focused so much on the glucose dysregulation that people are missing the insulin resistance part. If we were to reverse and so use some of those calculations that are in the How to Tell tab, if we were able to look at insulin dysregulation first, insulin dysregulation is going on even though the glucose isn't high in your bloodstream yet. By the time the glucose gets high, you've damaged a lot of things in your body, your liver, your kidneys, your heart, and now you're working in reverse. So understand that insulin is really the key. I talk about glucose a lot because it's the driver for insulin, but as far as blood work goes, it's not just looking for the glucose that's going to help you understand this. So I hope all of this helps. You guys, I would be so honored if you do the system and you choose to use me as your coach. I would be very honored, and I look forward to reaching out. You get texts, you get to talk to me. That's how I spend the rest of my day. I will be back tomorrow, we're going to talk about kidney disorders, but I do have to go right now. Thank you for spending time with me today, and we'll see you tomorrow. Love you all.